This episode on retirement, some thoughts about Medicare. Well, John and I were having a discussion on our retirement show. Uh, After the show, John basically led me through a discussion on some of the things that I need to be worried about with Medicare. And as we were talking about it, said to myself, we need to record this for y'all. So a show was born. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation in your home maintenance and repair. This episode is entitled On Retirement, Some Thoughts About Medicare. This one is to help save you time and aggravation, largely. Not so much about your home maintenance and repair, but it's going to be about some other stuff. And to help me explain, I am here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, Johnny. Johnny, what is going on this week? What do we got going on? Anything exciting?
Well, I've got my flannel shirt on, and it's pretty cold.
I got my fleece on.
It's cold. It is cold outside, boy. So
yeah, as far as Georgia goes, teens is freezing.
Yeah, that's it's cold, uncomfortable outside actually. So, anyways, that's kind of what's been going on. The weather forecast was a little off, which was great, and didn't get hit as bad as we thought. So, anyways,
for
there
the
you
big
go.
Storm, yeah.
It
was. I thought it was pretty accurate. They put us right
it was pretty accurate.
Put our house right on the edge.
Yeah,
we were right on the edge. We did. Thank God we did not get ice. Not a lot of it anyway.
That's a mess.
It is. What a mess. Yeah, what a mess. So, all right. Well, with that, we are going to have this quick discussion. I do have to put out the ever famous disclaimer. The disclaimer is we are not insurance, tax, or retirement professionals. Each situation is different. Please consult your own professionals for actual advice. So this discussion was, John is a couple of years my senior. I am in my early 60s. And so we started this conversation talking about retirement and just about how we were getting ready. And John's like, well, you got to think about Medicare coming up, because John is past 65. So he's been in the middle of it and actually lived it. Right, Johnny?
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of where the discussion started. And, right. I remember the first part when I had to get into it was, I think it was a year before, I can't read, 6 months, I think, before your birthday, you are eligible to make some decisions on Medicare, if I remember right. And again, folks going through this, we're not insurance guys, and go talk to some licensed folks, and they'll be more than happy to help you through it. But here, I've been through a couple of these different scenarios now, going for being on Medicare in the last 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. So I was just telling Larry, here's a couple of things you need to consider when you're thinking about, turning 65. Some things are about to change.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and this is literally, as we always like to say, this show is kind of modeled after two guys sitting around a bar talking about stuff, mostly about home improvement and maintenance. But this was one that kind of applies to everybody. If you're of that age, you've got to be aware of it. And if you're thinking about, I do a lot in the retire early community, and if you're thinking about retiring, healthcare is a critical factor. But as you get closer, Medicare basically takes the place of healthcare. And so it's just helpful. These are things that the more time you have to plan, the better off you are. And that's why I think that this one is important for us, because I'm still probably a year away from having to make all these decisions, but I want to be able to do my research now and get all my ducks in a row so that when the decision time comes, I'm not slammed with all this stuff. And this is how it led us into this conversation. So, talk to me, John.
Listen, here's the change, right? I mean, let's start off from square one. Most folks that go into this, now you might have had your own private health care over several years, or you might be on a company plan, so on and so forth. And everything is pretty much, in one package, if you will. Right. You've got your health care and everything's in one package, minus, like a dental or vision or whatever. But besides that, it's, most of that. And you look for, go to one place, whether it's one of the big insurance companies, whatever. One thing you find out is Medicare can be a little confusing, because it's not like one single plan.
Mhm.
And it's made up of different parts, and you're going to hear part A, part B, part C, part D, and then you go into different supplements from the K's and the G's and the whatever, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, wow, wait a minute. I got to take a breath. Somebody help me, explain it. And really this, what I'm saying here is just some things to be aware of. And you just don't sign up like it's, like your old insurance. It is not free healthcare either.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's something else. There's a couple of different parts to the main parts to healthcare, to Medicare, and that's part A and part B. Part A is something that you've paid into all those years you've been working.
Right.
So when that covers like hospital stays and facilities and some home health care and things like that. But there are deductibles on that. And, hospital stays aren't unlimited, and you'll find all this stuff out. But that's part A. So like everybody has that. Part B is kind of your doctor visits. That's the other portion of this. And that's outpatient care, tests, preventative services, all this kind of stuff, and that does have a monthly premium.
Right.
And so that's what everybody, I'm going to try to break this up a little bit because gets a little confusing, because now this is the part where people say, hey, my Medicare is going up.
Yeah.
Medicare
Yeah.
from the pure, these two parts is what we're talking about. That part B is what goes up. So it's not free health care per se on that part. So you're going to be paying for that, albeit it's, discounted greatly, but so there's that.
Yeah. So I just want to step back and just kind of review this, right? So number one, at 65, everybody becomes eligible for Medicare, right?
Yes, and you will have to take it unless you're still working, in which case what's the restriction? 20 employees. If you're working for a company that has 20 or more employees, I think you can still be on their plan. If it's below that, then you will be taking Medicare.
Yeah,
So,
and again, this is where talk to the professionals, because they know exactly what they're talking about. This is not us. But and even in the bigger programs, I think they can kick you out if you take if you're old enough. I'm not sure.
No, that's true. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a threshold, and I think it's 20 employees. So you guys will have to check with that. But there are these kind of restrictions out there. And once again, this show is just kind of to put the back of your, in the noodle, man, and try to noodle these things out, because there's going to be a lot of decisions that are coming up.
And it's not free. None of it is free. So there's always a premium.
Part A is what you've paid for. Okay.
But you still pay a premium on that, though, do you not?
No, on part B you do.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
You see how this is getting
already. I'm confused.
Oh, exactly. So the part B, once again, is all your doctor visits and your outpatient care and things like that. That part is what your premium is. Okay.
Right.
We're gonna separate that. So put that one, boom, put a pin in that right now, and it increases if your income is higher too. That's another thing. So it's pegged to your. So all these things, man, this is like a wild spreadsheet going on of how much you're paying for just that. Okay, but at the minimum, you're going to be paying some type of premium that'll be taken out of, I believe, Social Security. Now, I am not taking Social Security yet. I will be next year. I waited until I'm 70, so that's a whole nother thing. So there is an annual deductible on Part B too. So
let's go over Part A first. I just want to go over Part A because I want to be clear about this. And again, we've got. Part A covers hospital stays, skilled nursing facilities, and some home health care, right?
Mm-hmm.
For most people, for most people, Part A has no monthly premium because you've paid for it while you were
That's
working.
right.
So that's it. And with that said, but there are deductibles. And again, this is going to be customized to your specific situation. So talk to the professional, but these are some things you got to be thinking about, right? This is just Part A. And hospital stays are not unlimited, which thank God for that. But be that as it may, you can't go for an
There's
unlimited amount of time.
this is there. I'm not even going to go through that scenario, but you guys can probably guess, about that as you get older.
Right.
So,
Just
so
things to
anyway,
consider.
so there's that. Now, the way I look at that is like, that's a catastrophic. The next thing I know, I'm waking up in a hospital, that's Part A,
Right.
all my follow-ups and all my doctor visits, all that kind of stuff would be, Part B, or before, if I just have some kind of anomaly or something, abnormality that I got to go. So that's Part B. Okay.
Yeah. So once you come out of the hospital, any follow-ups you're paying for, one way or that you're either doing Part B or
Well,
you're paying
that's,
for it out
yeah.
of your
So
pocket.
once again, guys, and if we'd love your input on this, but I'm
Yes,
sure some of you
please.
guys out there that know this insurance stuff cold, correct us. But that's the way I'm looking at it. So you've got these two things now. There's gaps there, right? That it's not going to pay for everything. So
Right.
before I get to that, then you've got something called Part D, and that is your prescription drug coverage. Now,
D for drugs, Johnny. D for drugs.
Let me stop here a second, and let me go back to the original thing I was talking about, insurance. The way I looked at insurance, folks, if you're not 65 yet, and you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, is that your insurance package right now from take your pick, United, Anthem, whatever, is kind of an inclusive thing with the drugs and everything else, and it'll help you out with all that.
Right. Well,
This is all,
they can or they cannot.
yeah, they can and they can't, but this is all
Right.
kind of broken up. And you're now the architect of putting this stuff together. And that's why you need somebody to kind of walk you through this. And this was the confusing part for me, was what piece goes where, and where am I vulnerable, and where can I get caught in this whole thing? Should this scenario happen or this scenario happen or whatever. So, but Part D, now let me bounce back, is the prescription drug coverage. If you don't take Part D and you don't take drugs for anything like, statins or whatever it might be, hey, I'm feeling great. I don't know, which I don't at this point, thank God. But you still need to buy into, you still need Part D, because if you don't, that's when they catch you and they penalize you pretty much for life to get back into Part D.
Yeah. And there's a penalty.
There is a penalty for this. And I was warned about this up front, which every time I go to redo my Medicare or I ask about it, what's the first thing I say? Now this does, we are talking about Part D too, right? Because I don't want to get left out in the cold on this, because it was a pretty big penalty as I know it. Now, some of you folks out there listening to me are probably, have acquaintances or friends that might have done, missed that. I don't know. Thank goodness I didn't, but you just need to be aware of that. So that is kind of the components of the classic Medicare.
What's considered the classic?
The classic.
Medicare.
That's the original type of thing. Now, where Medicare doesn't cover for extended stays, for other types of doctor visits, there is a decision that you need to make. And that's one of two things. And that is a Medigap portion to buy onto an add-on, or you go to an Advantage plan, which
Is Medicare Part C. Is that correct?
correct, which basically is a private company packaging up A and B. They are subsidized, as I believe that I'm right on this somehow, from the government to cover a gap. Okay. So there's two things. Now, what does that mean? That means that you are still paying the original Part B, which you have to pay for anyways, which right now is around $200 a month. Okay. And so there's plans that for the Advantage plan that can take your $200, package it all up, and give you some additional things and put you in an HMO or a PPO, okay, type of thing. But there's also some downfalls to that. The other big decision is the original Medicare and then Medigap plus Part D. And now with those components, you basically have your classic insurance back.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it. Now you're covered for just about everything, covered.
I'm sure you're not covered for everything, but you're covered for most.
But for what a classic insurance, good insurance policy is.
Right.
I'm not going to go through, I can't go through all the stuff. I'm not a licensed guy or anything, the Cadillac plans and all that stuff, but you can get some really nice, now you're for the people that I know that have it, that have a lot of issues, they're covered. Okay. And I mean big issues. So anyways, you guys can find out about this. What I was telling Larry was what your decision is between those two things.
Between the
Medigap
and Part C
and the Advantage type of plan that you can get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of before I get into
nuance is the word you're looking for. There's a lot of nuance.
What I want to say is that what I know about this is that when you first sign up for Medicare, if you go into a Medigap, that is more of a private type of insurance where classically they would run you through an underwriting procedure.
Right.
Okay, but they can't deny you at that point, is what I understand. Now, I'm not the licensed guy, but that's what I understand. And it's a one-time thing. And once you're in it, you're in it. But if you're in an Advantage plan and you really wanted all this additional coverage, you might have to run through an underwriting procedure where you could be denied. And now you're back. Yes. You're kind of back into a.
So your first decision matters is the point.
That's correct. That's a good way that's exactly right.
Right. So this is why, for me, because I'm several years away from this, just at this point, probably basically 2 years, because I need to make the decisions about a year in advance, right? So I'm 62, I'll be 65, obviously in 3 years. So 2 years from now, I need to make these decisions. And what John has explained to me, and I believe this to be the case from all the research that I've done so far, which is not a ton, but it's enough, that first decision is what really matters. You got to make the right first decision. So you really have to think this through. And of course, we talk a lot about this in our home maintenance and repair and all these kinds of things about pre-planning, right? Yep. This is something that you've just kind of got to get ahead of, and you really have to get ahead of it and get your brain full of all the nuances that go in with it. Talk to these various professionals and things, and make sure that this first decision is the one that is going to truly matter for you. Because if you get it wrong, it opens you up to some things that, to me, they don't seem quite right, but I don't make the rules, right? And that's just
and that's exactly right, Larry. And the reason that we start to have this conversation, because I've been through both of these. Okay, right, I was talked into an Advantage plan.
Yep,
I understand that. Speaking of it, the word advantage is that some of the people selling this stuff, there is an advantage to them selling Advantage plans. Now, That's what I heard from some other licensed people, but whatever.
Well,
I
the
was,
bottom line there is that there's choices,
well,
and you
this is,
have to be comfortable. You have to be comfortable with the choices, and if you're taking advice from an advisor, make sure you're comfortable with that advisor as well, right?
yes,
I know
exactly.
this is really way cart before the horse, but talk to two or three. This is like anything. If you're going out to get a contract to do a remodel in your house, talk to several people.
That's right.
Get talk to two or three different people. You're going to hear a whole lot of things that are very common, and you're going to hear, where there's commonality amongst what they say, and then you're also going to get differing opinions on your specific situation, right?
Yeah.
And get with the one that elective or selectively makes the best sense for you when it comes to even just your advisor, right? Because the advisor matters. If you get advice from the wrong person, then what? Right? So,
Well,
and
and
don't listen
here's,
to Johnny and I, because we're just a couple of hacks.
yeah,
But our point is that my point is that talk to multiple people. This idea of this show is for you to get out and talk and understand the basic concepts and talk to multiple professionals to get the right advice for what your specific
right,
situation is, because everybody's got a different specific situation,
right,
which is why we've been very hedging on giving true advice, because we're
right.
not professionals, but we do understand cause and effect, and that
Well,
cause and effect of choosing that wrong one in the front can be really
and
catastrophic.
I'll
Right?
just start to wrap this up and say,
Yeah.
that I've been through both of these. I've been through the Advantage plan and I've been through the other thing. And I was in this Advantage plan and I didn't have to use much services on any of it, but there are some downfalls to it, and that it can really tangle some things up, and you guys can look that up with prior authorizations and things like that. It can take a long time for you to move on to the next procedure that you might need for knees or whatever it might be, stuff like that. And I'm speaking to all you handymen out there, right? I mean, when you're getting older, hey, we all got aches and pains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other side of it is they canceled my plan this year, which they'll always do on this Advantage thing. But then I got the letter, that said, hey, you can use this letter now. Don't throw it away, to go anywhere you want. And you can get traditional, to go back to Medigap without being underwritten. I was like, yeah, okay, what's this all about? And that's when I consulted a professional. And that's when they said, you are fortunate that you didn't need any major procedures or anything else, because there's been some interesting stories out there about that. So I moved back to the Medigap thing. It costs more because you're actually paying an additional piece. Okay. But, you're pretty much now have your old, what you would recognize as kind of your old insurance of just going any, just about all the doctors and specialists and those kind of things, so you're kind of back in that world. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys can look at all this stuff up, but the bottom line is just here's some thoughts as you start to enter into this government stuff.
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, I'm just going through the rest of our notes here. Timing matters, right? You got a 6-month window for open enrollment, which is, I've never really understood what that meant, but you need to, I understand it now. I'm not going to get into it, but you need to understand that part of the rule. You need to have a pretty good understanding before, just don't wing these decisions is our point, right? You can't be winging this stuff. So get on it early. This is turn the television show off for 1 hour a week and go through some of this stuff and learn what you need to know, because it's different. It differs if even if you're still working. It depends, because a lot of this is income based and things like that. There's just a whole lot to this. Is the point?
There absolutely is, and one of the things that you'll see a lot of ads on TV for Advantage plans and all the wonderful stuff here and there. Just be very careful, and like Larry said, turn the TV off. Go do your research. There's a lot of good online stuff. There's a lot of professionals out there to help you. But Larry brought up when we first started this conversation, it just pulled out the feelings in me when I first went into this. And I said, okay, I got 6-month window. And they sent me, the government will send you a letter and say, hey, dude, you're getting old. You're going to be turning 65. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. And here's what you need to do. Don't trash the letter. Don't forget about it. Put the stuff on your calendar and, start the process. You're going to be a lot happier. Going to be a lot less stressful.
It's a lot less stressful.
Right? Just because I will tell you that the final open enrollment that happens up to like a December 7th or something like that, these people that can help you are going to be slammed.
Yes.
Because everybody waits to the end.
Yeah. If you put it off, it was like buying propane at the Ace Hardware this last weekend before the storm. Why? Everybody knows the storm's coming in on Saturday night. Why would you go to buy propane Saturday morning? Because guess what?
Yeah.
We're out. Big surprise, right?
Yeah. Anyways,
that's a situation, right? Get on it early. Your life is much less stressful if you get on these issues early, right?
So disclaimer again, just some thoughts, guys. Don't take my word for anything. Just these are things that I went through. That's all.
Yeah, this is just us trying to share some overarching stuff. Again, we're not insurance, tax, or retirement professionals, but we are in the midst of it right now. This is very much like when we talk about handyman issues. We've done it. We're not talking. We're either in the process of doing it or we've done these jobs, and it's the same kind of thing. We're just trying to help you out, try to make your life basically easier by getting you on some things to think about. And if you're doing these jobs, if you're getting there, if you're older like we are, and gosh, Johnny, we've been doing this a long time about doing this show. That when we first started this show, we were nowhere near talking about retirement stuff, and now here we sit, right? Anyway, be that as it may, that's where we're at with it. So, Johnny, question. Do you think the aliens ever retire?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of old people that I'm thinking, that could have been an alien. I think they could crawl around. Anyways, yeah.
All right. Well, folks, on this one, definitely, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please send it to us, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. We really, really would love any impact that you have back on this. We hope that this is helpful information for you. These kind of, our show concepts always come out of conversations that we have that come from the field, more or less. And this one's come from the field just recently. We're in and around the first of the year, a little past the first of the year. And this is just top of mind for both of us at this point. It's where we do most of our planning for the year. And so these comments come up, and they've come up because I've been asking questions to John, because John basically mentors me in this kind of stuff to a degree anyway. And he points me in the right directions to go get this stuff done. So if you have any questions, again, questions at handymanproradioshow.com, and we certainly would appreciate it. All right, Johnny, with that, take us home, baby.
All right, folks. Hey, have a great week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.